Why hello everybody, Spencer here, also known as Lego Dude 11, and in today's video, this is my Spider-Man No Way Home official spoiler review. That's right, you heard me correctly. Spoilers in this video, so if you've not seen the movie yet, click away now, go check it out because this movie is so epic. So without further ado, let's discuss. Alright, so first and foremost, I do have my list of notes as usual, taken down here of the movie. Did it the night after I got home with my friends here, jotted down notes of the movie, and now I am getting to reviewing this movie. And this video is being uploaded the week after the movie, so if you give you guys a little bit of time to see the movie, but if you still haven't, there are spoilers in this video. I do have my official Spider-Man No Way Home shirt that I got and wore at the movie theater, and specifically am wearing for this review and wore it to the movie theater. I didn't wear a costume, I would have loved to, but I thought I would wear something with No Way Home apparel, merch stuff on it, so there's that. So I am really in love with this movie and this franchise. I love Spider-Man so much that I will be giving you my rating and all my thoughts here in this video. That's what this is. So let's kick it off. My notes. First thing I have is the score and the soundtrack of the movie, which I am just a huge. Again, I'm probably going to be very biased in this review here, but overall, I love this composer, Michael Giacchino, who has done a plethora of movies, but more importantly, he's done all the Spider-Man movies in the MCU. He's also done, I think he's only done the Spider-Man movies, but he's done Homecoming and Far From Home, which I love those soundtracks. I listen to them constantly. And now this one, I'm going to listen to constantly on end for a long time. He did really well with this soundtrack. Like, I didn't think he was just going to do bad, but I always think, like, okay, how is he going to improve upon the last one? How can he make it different? And he did really nicely. I love the different tracks that he did for this movie. I mean, you guys know I love the Far From Home soundtrack. If you didn't know that, I like that movie and the score that he did. And Homecoming. The Homecoming score is really good as well, but he's done the Incredibles movies. He's done other Pixar movies. I think he did maybe either, like, Toy Story or he did another Pixar movie. He's done like Luca maybe, but he's done a couple other Pixar movies, and I really like his work. So this one just was outstanding with the Dr. Octopus track, and especially with like the reprising role occurrences of Sam Raimi, the Danny Elfman music, which Danny Elfman's coming back for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness score, so I'm excited to hear him. And I really like just other action pieces, like when Sandman and Electro are fighting and Green Goblin's back. I don't think they really used the Green Goblin theme, but I just like the different action pieces, and then like the heart emotional sequences that had like little touch notes that Michael Giacchino scored, and just everything was perfect. I love listening to the soundtrack. We'll constantly listen to it on end. So 2 thumbs up to Michael Giacchino for scoring this one, and he's someone that definitely needs more praise in his work. So a little bit of the music discussion. So let's move onwards and forwards to what my next notes were the villains, and well, so I actually wrote 2 things down here. One is the villains, and then the other thing is a huge spoiler. So if you have not seen the movie, huge spoilers in 3, 2, 1, and the Spider-Man that are in it. Yes, I did say Spider-Man, so you have been warned. First off, I'm going to talk about the villains. So, going into this movie, I was so excited for the villains, and they did not disappoint me on that level. The villains I was excited to see, like, okay, right off the bat, Spider-Man 2 is just a classic, epic comic book movie, right? For sure. I think everybody can agree on that. If you're a Marvel fan, I'm sure you can agree that Spider-Man 2 is just a classic, epic movie. And Dr. Octopus was amazing to see come back on screen. But I just wanted to see the new updated Electro, Sandman come back, because they are just great Spider-Man villains. But Dr. Octopus and Green Goblin had a lot of great time on screen. They did not. Alfred Molina and Willem Dafoe just didn't miss a beat. in like the 20 years that they've been gone. They were great to see as well. Lizard was cool to see his CGI form, and then Kurt Connors, I think Ivan Reese is his name, come back at the end there. The transformation was quite cool. Him, Lizard, and Sandman's transformation at the end were very nostalgic in a way. And this movie is very nostalgic and emotional, for sure. So the villains and all of them being in the same room in the apartment at that one time was just so epic to see them, all 5 of them in the room. And just all the villains were great. As I said, big spoiler here, was all the Spider-Man. When you see Ned through the portal, I couldn't believe that we saw Andrew Garfield on the screen. I was clapping when he took his mask off there. I was clapping when you saw Toby come up on screen. And he was just like, I hope it's okay I came through. The portal just closed. So, yeah, I laughed when Ned referenced, like, are you gonna not just look like a youth pastor the whole time? There's a youth pastor reference. But yeah, I actually applauded and yelled at the screen when Andrew came up. I yelled at the screen and applauded when Toby came up. So just, it was great to see those guys on screen. The banter with all the Spider-Man was fantastic. And I'll mention all the references here in a bit here. But I just loved all the banter. Like, you're in the Avengers? That's great! What is that? Is that a band? Kind of like what Bruce Banner said about, wait, we're breaking up like the Beatles. So that was kind of neat. And I liked their back and forth at the, what type of villains have you fought? I thought they were going to say more, but I guess it was just kind of like a reference, like Venom's not here. Like, oh, I fought an alien. I fought an alien in space. That was purple. So that was kind of interesting. I thought they were going to mention like some other villains, but that's alright. And then Andrew was like, I'm so lame. I've never done anything like that. I fought a guy in a rhino suit. And then when Toby says, you're not lame, you're amazing. We got an amazing Spider-Man reference there. So, I'm going to move on from that. There was just lots of great banter with the Spider-Man, but I'm going to move onward to my thoughts on the plot. And then I'm going to get to my other notes here, segue on my segues here. But the plot of the movie was really well done. As I've heard people say going into this, it's just going to be a cash grab and just like a whole like fun show of there's this cameo, there's this cameo, there's this guy, there's Spider-Man, there's the villains, oh, there's that reference, there's that. Which it wasn't that. Yes, there was Spider-Man references and Easter eggs and things coming down the line, but in my mind, and I think with everybody else I've talked with, have agreed with me on the sense that this was perfect. There were references in the right moments. There was nostalgia in the right moments, and it was heartfelt. Which I will mention. There's other things I'm going to get to like right now, but the plot just meshed together so nicely, and the director John Watts did a fantastic job of what he does, and Kevin Feige also shepherded on the shoulder of this movie just so nicely. And coming off the heels of 2 great Spider-Man movies, Homecoming and then Far From Home. If you guys don't know how much I love Far From Home, I love it so much. It's not my favorite Spider-Man movie, but it is great in my eyes. I love Jake Gyllenhaal playing Mysterio. I love the Mysterio villain. I was so excited when they cast Mysterio as the villain of the movie, because they could have picked anybody, but they picked Mysterio. And I was really excited. So I'm excited for down the line the villains to come in the next movies, which I will mention here as the future Spider-Man. But I love Far From Home. I love the soundtrack as well. But this movie delivered on a plot with, Peter Parker being outed, and then he's like, well, how can I make this? How can I change this? And he goes to Doctor Strange for help, which in a way is a bit cheesy, but it's based off of one of the comic storylines. And they try to implicate that format. And then some people say it's cheesy that the way he breaks the spell, but he's a teenage kid, and he makes dumb choices, which don't we all? But anyway, I'm more on that. That he learns from his mistakes. But throughout that, there's a plot developed, and it makes so much sense. It's not just like, well, you gotta show this guy, you gotta show this villain, you gotta show this Spider-Man, he's randomly here now just for some odd reason. No. It explains why they're there, and it makes sense. And when the Spider-Man show up, it's so well done in a way like Ned just opens the portal and they want to find Peter Parker. They want to see that they want to see him, they want to find where he is and make sure that he's okay. And in that moment you get he opens the portal to find Andrew Garfield and then Tobey Maguire, and they just come on, and it's so well done in a perfect format that they could have brought them in any way, but the way they chose to do it was just spot on and so well done. And they even play the music when they come on screen, but it's a little hint of it, so it's just nailed. They just nailed it on that factor. Moving on to another part of the plot that I love, that's like I said, Peter Parker being outed was a hilarious moment in the first act, and the first scene of the movie, when you see just the transition from Far From Home, and then like they're talking to MJ, and then she says, or they say, "Are you really Peter's girlfriend?" And he's like, "Don't touch her," and then they swing away. I laughed my head off at the fact that she said she didn't want to swing again, and then they were swinging again, and she's like, "Whoa!" I just laughed. I was like, that's the perfect way to start a movie like that. You put a grin on my face. I was grinning from beginning to end. Well, I shouldn't say grinning from beginning to end. I had a blast of the movie, which I should say. So, something else that the plot just did so well was take Aunt May. Another spoiler here, but I've already warned you. Enough. It's in the title of the video. Aunt May's death was so tragic. I say so tragic. It is so tragic. And perfect heartwarming moment and continuation throughout the film that is used later. And I understand what they were going for here, but it didn't make me cry enough as in later in the movie. And I'll say why. It was heartfelt, and it had importance to later in the movie when all three Spider-Men are talking and he says, "She told me great power comes great responsibility." And they say, that's what Uncle Ben told me on the day he died, with Andrew and Tobey on the day Uncle Ben died. But it was very heartwarming and emotional, and I would have teared up for sure. A couple of my friends teared up, but it didn't make me cry until the movie didn't make me cry until all three Spider-Men were there, web slinging, landed, and then they were talking about the Avengers, and it was just like it was so emotional then, because all three Spider-Men were there. Aunt May dying, yes, was very sad. There was a heartwarming, but if it was more dramatic, it was a long scene, sure, but if it was more dramatic in the way, like, oh, she's dead, like, it just felt like the pumpkin bomb, like she could have done something more. She could have been saved a little bit more, but in the end of the day, it was very sad, and I do think it was emotional, and like as you rewatch it, it is sad to think about, so. With that being said, let's move on to the next part, which I wrote down, the cameo. Well, I'm deciding what to do. I'm going to talk about all the references first. I'm going to do this out of order of my notes. So all the references were amazing, no pun intended, amazing or spectacular. There were a lot here, so I'm going to do this off of my brain as well as I can. So the first reference I caught in the movie, which I think I told my friend at the end of it. I didn't say this to all of them, but the one I thought, I mean, there are lots of references that I thought were great, but the first one was the "Go Get 'Em Tiger" reference, which if you didn't get it, Betty Brant is doing a Daily Bugle interview, maybe not interview, but speech or whatever, and she says at the end of it, "Go get 'em, Tiger," about Peter, but a reference to Mary Jane in the first Spider-Man movie. That's what Mary Jane's catchphrase is, "Go get 'em, Tiger," which I thought that was a great Easter egg there. Also, when Dr. Octopus comes in, he references the power of the sun in the palm of my hand, which is the thing in Spider-Man 2, the fusion reactor that he was building in the movie. And we also got a reference to, well, I shouldn't say a reference, but I like that they added this into the movie. It was when the Death Star, you saw the Lego Death Star on the table, and then the dummy robot knocks it over. I was just like, no! He spent so long building that. But also, at the end of the movie, you see, after Peter Parker is brainwashed, not Peter Parker's brainwashed, after the whole spell goes down, he puts Ned's little Palpatine figure on the desk to remember Ned. I just love that. That so symbolic there. And then you get a reference to of Green Goblin saying, you know, I'm something of a scientist myself, which is just classic, such a classic line. It's not really a reference, but as I said, they talked about the Avengers. That was something else. I love the banter on that. And when the three Spider-Men are talking, or I shouldn't say all three, the two, Andrew and Tobey, are talking, they do a reference of when Tobey Maguire is web-slinging in Spider-Man 2, and you see him falling, and like he loses his powers, and he doesn't have his powers. He's like, I'm back, and then he falls. He's like, oh, my back. They do a back reference. It's just hilarious. I think I was the only one who caught it. Maybe there were other people who caught it, but just, I think they probably in the theater I was like, my back. I was like, I couldn't believe they referenced that. But like, oh yeah, I have a middle back thing myself. I love it. They also, Electro at the end, when he was talking to Andrew, he said, man, I'm a nobody again. And Andrew's like, no, you're not a nobody. And he's like, I just thought underneath that hood, that mask, you'd be a black Spider-Man. There's got to be a black Spider-Man out there somewhere. I thought that was great. Little hint at Miles Morales sometime in the future. So another great reference there. And all the references were amazing. If I missed a reference, be sure to let me know in the comments below. But those are all the things I wanted to mention off the top of my head that I got there. So yeah, next things I'm going to mention are the cameos. Are the cameos. And I couldn't believe that Matt Murdock, Charlie Cox himself, made an appearance on screen. I'm just super excited to see him come into the MCU officially now. It wasn't a big surprise, but when he did make his entrance in the movie, I did just applaud and get so excited. But I was, you know, since he's been talked about so much in this movie, it wasn't like a shocker, but I was so excited to see him pop up. And I am currently halfway through the first season of Daredevil, so I am watching it now. And yes, I am super duper enjoying it. I am just having a great time with Daredevil, and I wish I watched it sooner, but I have gotten around to starting it now, and I'm moving on to season 2 here shortly. And yes, and I'm super excited to see Daredevil now canon. You know, Kingpin's now part of the MCU in Hawkeye, so we have 2 Daredevil characters. I hope we see Punisher at some point down the line. Well, Daredevil, we don't need to see Punisher. But Punisher is in the Daredevil show, so I do like that character. But if we did get any other characters in from the Netflix show, I would like to see Punisher. But other than that, though, I don't need to see Iron Fist, I don't need to see Jessica Jones, I don't need to see Luke Cage. But who knows? They could add them. But I love the appearance of Daredevil. That was a great addition for sure. So, in this movie, there were the 5 villains, the Spider-Man, and then there were some other glimpses of things that happened. So, as I already mentioned the Spider-Man, I already mentioned the villains, but in the cracks that came up, not like the blip, but like the cracks that Spider-Man, Doctor Strange has that is going around. By the way, I forgot to mention this, but I love the fight scene between Spider-Man and Doctor Strange in the Mirror Dimension. That fight scene was amazing. I also like the fight scenes with the villains, but, you know, that fight scene in the Mirror Dimension was great. All of it just worked really well, and all the things, and he's like, wait, I can use geometry here. So that was fun, and a little fight with Doctor Strange. But in the cracks, there were some cameos, like teases and stuff, and I thought in that moment, I thought there might be X-Men coming through, because he's like, they're coming through and I can't stop them. But no Fantastic Four, no X-Men. Hope to see them later. But there was a silhouette of a character that I think, and everybody else agreed, looked like Kraven the Hunter with a staff and a coat jacket. Definitely has to be that, because Sony's making a Kraven the Hunter movie. I think I just really expect to see him soon. I want to see him, and I think that was the character. It looked like Scorpion was there, maybe Rhino, and I don't I think those were the other silhouettes that I saw, but those were the other ones. But Craven, more specifically, I'm excited to see down the line. Something else I wanted to mention, I didn't really mention this, but with the villains, like I said, Willem Dafoe did not miss a beat. He was so menacing throughout the end, like when he just had that big grin on his face in the apartment. Super horrifying, very menacing by the end of it when Peter is just punching him in the face. Super brutal. I caught me, and I loved every minute of it, what was happening, but just great, brutal action stuff. So I'm going to move on to the mid and end credit scene and the other cameo of this movie. So in the mid credit scene, after all the 3 is the magic number with the animated credit scene credits, it comes up on the mid credit scene, which was kind of a letdown, maybe in my eyes. I'm not going to call it like it wasn't the worst mid credit scene. I was just like, kind of like, really, that was it? But I'm excited to see what is happening down the line here. So Venom, Eddie Brock was sitting in a bar, and I just thought, like, a couple of my friends didn't see Venom Let There Be Carnage, right? And I explained to them what happened in that end credit scene, like why he's in here. But I felt like okay. So he's in the bar, right? And he's discussing that there are other super-powered individuals in this universe. And then, because of the spell that happens in the end, Peter Parker doesn't remember everyone. Nobody remembers Peter Parker, so he goes back into his universe. But he leaves a little smudge, whatever words, of symbiote goo on the table, on the bar, hinting that we could see Black Suit Spider-Man or something like that down the line. So I'm excited about that. I'm just like, really, that was it with Venom in this movie? I was expecting more, and I was expecting more, right? So that was it. Some people are confused of why Venom was able to cross into this universe, and I'll say this much: if you don't know, if you want some backstory of my theory, because some of my friends were confused, or whatever, I'll tell you my theory. Is I bet that Venom knows Peter Parker, or knows Spider-Man, and that's how he's able to travel into this universe, because either Spider-Man 3, they tried to tie that, like, Venom probably knows Peter Parker, or Spider-Man in some way. But Eddie Brock doesn't. So that's my theory, is that Spider-Man, or Venom, the actual symbiote, does know Spider-Man. But he doesn't, that Eddie Brock doesn't, so I bet that's what the thing is, and that the symbiote goo is going to appear some way down the line. And, yeah, so that's my thoughts on the mid-credit scene. Let's get on to the end-credit scene, and I have one final topic to talk about, but for now, let's talk about the end-credit scene. So, the end-credit scene, oh my lord. Talk about the end of the movie. Like, you drug me into this epic masterpiece of Spider-Man movie. I had the ride of my life, and then you dropped that Doctor Strange 2 teaser trailer at the end of that movie? I sold it. Like, sold all the way. Yeah, it just looked epic. Look, going into this movie, I was so hyped, and it delivered on so many levels. And that trailer, like, I like Doctor Strange, but Doctor Strange 2 looks like it's gonna be an epic banger, because to me, like, this is how I feel. Doctor Strange was, okay, that was a fun ride, I'll see where the character's going, and then Spider-Man No Way Home is the epic conclusion to this Spider-Man trilogy. It's also a continuation, or a first parter to Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, right? When you end this movie, you're like, well, what's going to happen with Doctor Strange? Where the heck is the multiverse going, right? So, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness looks epic. That teaser at the end was great. I think they did something in 2012 with the Avengers, if I'm not mistaken, like with the teaser at the end of the movie, but I loved it. I think the multiverse is going to be nuts in that movie. I cannot wait to see the monster creatures. America Chavez looks great at the little teaser. Him talking with Wanda at the end there, the banter, like, it's not about Westview. I need your help on a different level. I just cannot wait to see what happens with her. I hope, this is a theory, I'm not saying Mephisto, but I hope we get a glimpse at Agatha. Because that would mean that if Agatha comes back, it could be a tie-in to her own TV show. Like, if we see Agatha again, maybe it's leading up to her own show. That's just a theory. I'm spitballing ideas here, but like maybe like if we see Agatha in the movie, she could be back. She could have a cameo of some sort or a little role to play. So I don't know. I'm just spitballing ideas for that, but I thought the teaser looked great at the end. I'm glad they played it. I don't know what else they could have done with like a Spider-Man thing. I would have liked to see something else, but I think it was alright for what they did. I'm digging this Doctor Strange stuff, so cannot wait to see that movie. That's all my thoughts on that. So let's get on to the last topic here of the future of Spider-Man. So I mentioned a little bit, but not a lot. So I want to explain what I think, what I want to see down the line for Spider-Man. So if you don't know, I feel like lots of people are confused on this of, oh, Spider-Man's done, right? I think that was the same thing for Endgame, right? Like, oh, that's the end of Marvel. Nope, that's the end of the MCU. No. There's still 3 more Spider-Man movies to go. There's a new Spider-Man contract. There's another Spider-Man trilogy. 3 more movies coming with Amy Pascal. Amy Pascal said that, so she's going to do it. I don't think John Watts is directing it because he's directing Spider-Man or Fantastic Four. So Amy Pascal, I believe, is doing it. If I'm wrong about that, but I think she's part of it, like directing it, something. And I don't know what the name of it is gonna. I don't know what the name of them are gonna be. I don't know when they're coming out, but things I want to see in them. It's gonna discuss his college years. I know there's an animated thing on Disney Plus coming called Freshman Year. That's something different. I think Tom Holland is voicing the character, but I could be wrong about that as well. So, things I want to see happen in the new Spider-Man trilogy are the villains I want to see. I don't think we're seeing Kraven the Hunter. I think that's just a standalone Sony film. But I want to see Prowler, Scorpion, because that character at the end credit scene of Homecoming was so wasted. I want to see him. And Chameleon, from the bus driver from Far From Home. I want to see that guy. Those are the 3 villains I want to see. Because Aaron Davis was in Homecoming as well, so I would like to see those 3 villains appear in this next trilogy. And other than that, I don't know. Miles Morales was teased in the movie, so hopefully we could get Miles Morales in this next trilogy. Peter Parker is mentoring him, possibly. Other than that, those are all my thoughts, really. But those are just things I've been sitting on for like the past while of Far From Home until I saw, well, they're not having these villains in the movie, so yeah, that's just all my thought. And maybe who knows? Maybe in this movie, like, here's another thought. Maybe Ned goes evil and is like, who's this Peter Parker? Is Peter Parker Spider-Man? Or whoever, like, whatever he thinks Peter Parker Spider-Man. And he turns into Hobgoblin. Maybe Ned turns into Hobgoblin in the trilogy. Who knows? That would be quite exciting to see. But other than that, those are all my thoughts on the future of Spider-Man. Those are my notes I took of Spider-Man as well. I hope you had a blast listening to me talk about Spider-Man No Way Home. If you wanted to hear about something, drop it in the comments below. Before I end this video, though, I'm sorry, super biased thoughts here, but I am giving I walked out of that movie theater saying this movie, Marvel movie, is a 12 out of 10. It did not disappoint me on any level. I know 12 out of 10 is too much, but it definitely was that. I like this 3, like, I think this definitely makes it in the top 5. I would say it's top 3. For me, Winter Soldier's up there, Infinity War's up there, Endgame's also my top 5 as well. This one's in my top 5. Thor Ragnarok's in my top 5. So, you know, so many good things about this movie. Just had a blast at the theater, yelling, screaming, crying especially at the different moments with my friends. And then we went, grabbed a bite afterwards, just discussing so many things about this movie. I have vlog footage. I posted, this video is coming out on a Friday, so I already uploaded my vlog, which was on Friday. Or Wednesday, I mean, 2 days before this. So if you want to go check that out, be sure to check out the vlog of us at the movie theater. And I cannot wait for more movie nights like this. Probably not as epic as this because this movie was just such a blast. But Doctor Strange, I cannot wait to check out. But my lord, I think we're gonna go see one of my friends and I are gonna go see Morbius. So I'm excited for Morbius. I like the effects that are coming out. But anyway, thanks so much for checking out this review. Thanks so much. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Be sure to follow me at Master on Instagram. Link is down below. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me. As always, don't forget to keep calm, play Lego. See you guys next review. Peace out. Bye, everyone.